This video is going to be focused on the new team that I've created for Ranked Battles Series 9, and the series has just started in the beginning of May, so I have created this team to try out. I wanted to try out Tentacle and Swords Dance Slumberry at Tapu Bulu, and the last four Pokemon are Pokemon that I all have used, and I just thought they would work well with these two Pokemon, so yeah. The reason why I'm running Swords Dance Slumberry Tapu Bulu is because a lot of Pokemon like to set up turn 1, and a lot of those Pokemon are usually ground types, like Hippowdon, or people like to lead off with things like Tapu Fini, for example, and Urshifu's. So Tapu Bulu is a very good counter to all of those, and it has a lot of options to do. And I'm using Scarf Mamoswine. Disclaimer, I am going to be running a different set in the future. I'm going to be running Freeze Dry and Ironhead instead of Stone Edge and Superpower, because Freeze Dry covers a lot of things. I mean, like, it can cover, like, Stone Edge could cover some stuff, but I think it's not really necessary. And Freeze Dry is an egg move, so I'm going to have to breed a new Mamoswine for that, as I do breed all my Pokemon besides the legendaries. But yeah, I'm gonna have to get a Pokemon with Freeze Dry to breed that to Mamoswine, and because it's really important that I'm able to hit a lot of things as a lead Mamoswine, including Dracovish that I can already outspeed with the Scarf because I am naturally faster, and things like Swampert, and that's really important to have. So I lead off with Tapu Bulu into his Urshifu, and he goes for the. Or I don't lead off with the Tapu Bulu. I lead off with the Mamoswine, and obviously the Mamoswine is not going to be able to kill Water Urshifu. I did unfortunately predict his Urshifu incorrectly because I was thinking it was going to be a Dark Urshifu, but it is going to be a Water Urshifu, so I do have to switch out into Tapu Bulu because Mamoswine is not going to be able to kill it, and Tapu Bulu is good against its zap coverage, so I take the Surging Strikes kind of well. I took half, and then I go for the Horn Leech here to get some health back, because another Surging Strike from the Urshifu should not be able to KO me. So I just go for the Horn Leech to apply pressure, because Tapu Bulu is actually not that easy to switch into, because it has grassy terrain, and it can do a lot of things that Rillaboom can't do. Like, it can Stone Edge, it can predict things with Stone Edge and high horsepower. Well, Rillaboom has high horsepower, but not Stone Edge, so it can definitely do some things that Rillaboom can't do. And plus, since a lot of Tapu Bulus out there are going to be running that defensive set, then I can catch people off guard with this Swords Dance Lumberry set, which has won games by itself. So I go into the Mamoswine because I had a feeling he wasn't going to commit to the Dynamax, and this is just something that I really wanted to like capitalize on, because even though the grassy terrain is up, I can still revenge him with the Scarf Earthquake, and he probably will not be expecting this. He probably wanted me to, because he probably thought I was going to sacrifice it, which I was going to, because his Urshifu, I can't do anything with my Mamoswine to his Urshifu, so. And I can still deal with the Cinderace without the means of Mamoswine, so yeah. And I did get some chip damage on it. So he goes into his Thunderous Therian form, and um, I might. Okay, so I was like, this could be pretty bad because I'm locked into my Earthquake, and I can't really Dynamax. I mean, I could have Dynamax to prevent him from setting up, but it was a very risky option. But I could have easily done it, but that would have meant that his Urshifu would be able to Dynamax in the end game, which would be very bad, in my opinion. So um, I want to bait him into a Dynamax, because um, I basically that's why I switched to my Reuniclus, because that's full health, and I want him to think that I can Dynamax, which I am going to. So he does Dynamax here to see if he can one shot my Dynamax Reuniclus with after a nasty plot. And so this is where I wanted to talk about knowing their or figuring out their EVs based on damage. So this is really important because it allows you to see how much bulk they're doing, and if they have a lot of bulk, then they're not going to have that much speed, which does actually come in handy later in the match. So I Dynamax my Reuniclus on his Dynamax Thunderous Theory, and it's +2 at special attack, so it's going to do a lot of damage. And my Reuniclus is a very bulky one, but it's very offensive as well, so with that Life Orb as well. So he's going to go for the Max Darkness and almost kill my Reuniclus right now. So he's definitely he definitely is a threat to deal with. And I go for the Max Mindstorm here, and I see that it does not do even half, which is very I did not expect that. So I'm going to go ahead and see what kind of set he's running based on that damage, and he is running a Assault Vest because that max he is running max HP with the Assault Vest because that Max Smartstorm without that would have done at least like 60% because I did use the damage calculator. So I go ahead and try to go for the Max Guard because I don't want him to get any speed boost after with the Max Airstream because that would mean that my Tapu Bulu has no options to deal with and with this Thunderous, and I would lose. So because my Tapu Bulu is definitely going to be faster now that I know that this Thunderous definitely is running bulk. So because I am running max speed on my Tapu Bulu, so I can outspeed a lot of bulky things as well as even if they're like have a higher base speed. So I do get lucky right there the second turn and get a max guard, but it was really important that I went for that because if he did go for an airstream and he would hit it, then I would have lost the game because there's no way I would have outsped him after. So I go into Mamoswine to scare him out, and then I double into Tapu Bulu because now that I think about it, I know like there's no bad thing about doing this play because if he goes into Urshifu, then I would still be an advantage. And the only way he would be able to like beat this Tapu Bulu is if he went for the prediction flying move, which based on how he's playing, I don't think he's gonna go for that. So I do go into the Tapu Bulu here, and I do go for the Stone Edge because I know I am faster based on his bulk, and turns out that is the case, and I do get the knockout on his Thunderous. So that is really good that I was able to identify his stuff because that is really important. You can't really expect the Pokemon to be running just a special attack and speed set if they're going to take that little damage, you know? So, yeah, he goes into his Urshifu Water, and his Urshifu Water is unable to knock my Tapu Bulu out because I am resisting his stab moves as well as I did check his sets after the battle, and his third coverage move was Thunder Punch, so he had nothing to hit my Tapu Bulu either neutral effectively or super effectively. He had only not very effective moves, so that was really good for me. And I do go for the Horn Leech right here because it should knock him out under a grassy terrain. And I do have he was Scarf, so that means that my Mammal Son would not have outsped him either way, so I did not want to stay in at all that match. So that was good that I went into Tapu Bulu immediately to take its hits. And yeah, I lived the close combat, and I kill him with one hit with Horn Leech since it's a super effective stab move in the grassy terrain that is definitely not going to be living that. And he did also lower his defenses with close combat. So yeah, Tapu Bulu puts in work. Like it's very you usually see that defensive set, but the offensive set has to be respected. It can predict things with Stone Edge. It can set up on a lot of things due to its Limberry, and yeah. So the next team that I'm fighting is a pretty standard team. As you can see, it has Cinderace and Zapdos, which are the two most used Pokemon in the format right now, as well as Landorus, Dracovish, and Urshifu and Mimikyu. So he does lead off with the Dracovish, and this is what I was talking about with the Freeze Dry Mamoswine. Can cover so many lead options, especially from this team right here, because I would have outsped this Dracovish, and Freeze Dry does KO it. I do have to put like a little bit of special attack investment, but I think it really is worth it for things like Dracovish, which can like one shot a lot of things, and I don't want to play around with things like that. But I do have Tapu Bulu to lead off, and I can apply pressure with Horn Leech because even if he does Fisher's Rend, I will be gaining health, and Dracovish will not be able to win the 1v1 that way. So I do go for the Horn Leech, and he does get the static. He goes into his Zapdos, and he gets the static, which is fine because I do have a Lumberry. So I am able to conserve my healthy Tapu Bulu, even if it got paralyzed, because the Lumberry is going to take care of that. And I do go into Rotom in case he wanted to Dynamax immediately, but he just goes for the Hurricane, so and he misses, so that's unfortunate. But he is running Hurricane, which is not the most accurate move. And that is, even though Zapdos is a very, very strong Pokemon with very little like drawbacks, that is a drawback right there. That it does have to run a 70% accurate move for its only special attacking flying stab move. So yeah, I do go for the Will-O-Wisp right here, and I missed the first turn, which is unfortunate. Because I wanted to, I was actually predicting his Dracovish to come back in, but it wasn't really a loss. It wasn't really either way. A burn would really be appreciated on Zapdos because he is looking, at least from the static, I was expecting him to be a little bit more defensive because, I mean, static can be run on offensive or defensive, like it doesn't really matter, but I kind of got the impression. But based on that Horn Leech damage, I did figure out that it was offensive, so but he still does have Roost, so he does have that bulky element to it that it can stay around for a long time. And that's why Zapdos is the most used Pokemon. It can do so many things. Even though its moveset is pretty predictable, it can still be a huge problem for a lot of teams. Even though a lot of teams use Zapdos, it can still be an issue if you don't play around it correctly. So I do go for the Volt Switch as he just goes for some Hurricanes there. And this is good because I get to bring out my Lycanroc for free right now and go for the Rock Blast because it can cover a lot of things. And I just wanted to see what kind of play he wanted to do, because I don't really know what other Pokemon he has right now. So I just wanted to go for the Rock Blast right now. I don't want to commit with the Dynamax yet because I want to be careful. You can't ever commit with this team because that means that you will lose all your momentum that you gain from making the good plays. So that's definitely something you don't want to do. So in this point, I don't have to use my Rotom anymore because it lost its Citrus Berry, so it has no way of recovering again, and uh, Zapdos is pretty low already, so I don't have to worry about keeping my Rotom alive to deal with it because I do have a Lycanroc that is faster and can hit Zapdos super effectively pretty hard. So Lycanroc, I've used it for a while. I used it in Series 5 when GMAX Cinderace was an issue and it started getting the hidden ability. And things as Togekiss because of its ability, Sand Rush, because it can set up its own sand with a stab move, and then it can, and which means it can deal with a lot of max Airstream Pokemon, even Cinderace, because I am running that play rough, which means if it switches to a fighting type, I still have an option to hit it super effectively after it goes for that max knuckle. But I do go for the Horn Leech on the Tapu Bulu, and he's not going to be able to switch into it because it's a very strong move, and Dracovish, not and yeah, Zapdos would have died to the Horn Leech plus that burn damage, so he definitely didn't want to switch that in. Now here, I go into the Lycanroc. I know it's a very risky play, considering that he can Dynamax off of his advantage, even though he's like a Zapdos and at low health. But since I have that Focus Sash and Accelerock, I can still have an option to deal damage to the Zapdos and make it easier for my Tapu Bulu to Dynamax at the end game. So he does Dynamax his Zapdos, and he even though he's at a lower health, I can still go for that Accelerock. Even if he does go for the Max Airstream, which he does go for it here, and it does so much damage. Keep in mind that he is a Life Orb Zapdos, so he is going to be taking chip damage. So that is really important here, as I do get to go for the Accelerock right now. And if he switches out his Zapdos, then he's going to lose a lot of his momentum, even if my Pokemon are at low health. So um, I am going to go for the Accelerock. I do unfortunately get a low amount of damage off of that Accelerock. It could have done more damage, but it is what it is. And he is going to Airstream to knock me out here. And now he's going to take some Life Orb chip damage and some burn damage, which is really important right now. So I do have my Tapu Bulu as my last Pokemon left, and it can still Dynamax, which is really important. So with my games, I usually like to save my Dynamax until the end game, unless I really have to Dynamax at the beginning, but I rarely do that. It's definitely really like you really have to think before you can Dynamax, because you can't really Dynamax at the beginning, assuming they have no counterplay to your, especially to your Dynamax Pokemon, especially in the Master Ball tier. So that is really important. So I do have a Max Guard option on this Tapu Bulu, and I'm going to go for it because he is a Burn Zapdos, and he should be able to die to this burn after I get this Max Guard off. And unfortunately, he does not die. He is probably sitting at 1 HP. So I have to hope that he misses a Hurricane or goes for the. I don't think a Heat Wave should be able to KO me. So, but he does actually miss a Hurricane right here, as you can see in a few seconds here. Yeah. So he does unfortunately miss a Hurricane, but that's what happens when you do run a high risk move. I mean, it's not really that high risk because it is very strong under Dynamax, but outside of Dynamax, it has some risk to it, you know? So, and I do go for the Max Quake there because if he did go for a Roost, I would still have an option to kill him, even though probably I could have just gone for like Overgrowth and it still would have killed him anyway. But it's just better to be safe. And yeah, his last Pokemon is going to be that Urshifu Dark, which is not going to be able to do anything unless he has coverage, but he does not have coverage, so he is going to lose right there. And yeah, I did get a little bit lucky, but I could have KO'd the Zapdos with an Accelerock right there if I did a little bit more damage. But it is what it is. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that. It was a really fun experience, and I hope you enjoyed that video. And I will be updating you guys